Hello. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Aman Adhikari, and I make videos on coffee on the internet. Now, when I tell people that, they either tell me to get a life and find a real job, or they get super curious and they ask, what exactly about coffee? I mean, isn't coffee just coffee? How can you make hundreds of videos on coffee? This is what I usually tell them. Did you know that in almost 90% of households in the country, the coffee being made is months, if not years old? Now hold that thought. This is an apple. And you're probably wondering, why am I holding an apple at a talk about coffee? Well, by the end of this talk, what I hope you will realize is that coffee has more in common with this apple than have, most of us know. Arguably, an apple is the first thing we learn about as children. A for an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But the most important thing we learn about the apple is how it behaves. We learn that it's a fresh fruit, that if we cut it up and keep it out in the open, it will oxidize and turn brown. That if we don't finish it on time, it's going to rot and start smelling. And that as a fruit, it tastes best when it's perfectly ripe and fresh. Now think about this. If you came to my house and I served you 3, 4, 5, 6-month-old apples, I'm sure 100% of you would politely or impolitely panic, make an excuse, run away, and never come back. But strangely, if I served you 6, 12, hell, even 18-month-old coffee, every one of you would happily take a sip. No excuses, no hesitation, no suspicion. But coffee is also a fruit. And strangely, we've come to believe something really unusual about it. While we expect apples to be fresh, vegetables to be fresh, even bread to be fresh, we never expect coffee to be fresh. And we just accept it old. Not because old coffee is better, it's not. But because we never learned that coffee could be fresh in the first place. And that's what bad introductions do. Not only they ruin the experience for us, they also change our entire belief system. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to reintroduce coffee to you. And trust me, you need to hear this, because unless you took the advice, an apple a day keeps the doctor away quite seriously, you will be drinking a lot more cups of coffee in your life than you will ever eat apples. I was first introduced to coffee, fresh coffee, about 12 years ago, when a friend of mine got me a pack of freshly roasted South Indian filter coffee. Now, I used to believe that I was a big coffee guy, and there wasn't a brand of coffee I hadn't tried in the supermarket. I knew at least 15 different coffee recipes, which is a lot because I was about your age. And so I got really excited. I went to the kitchen and I did what I usually do. I took a glass of hot water, tried to mix in the coffee, and to my surprise, the coffee just wouldn't dissolve. The water turned brown, but the particles of the coffee, they kept settling at the bottom and they turned into a paste, and it was just horrible. So I got really mad and I call up my friend. I say, "What kind of cheap, weird coffee have you given me? I mean, it won't even dissolve in water. Is this some sort of a prank? I knew you would never get me a gift." And then he said something that changed my life. It flipped my world upside down. He said, "Bro, that's filter coffee. You need to filter it." Now, in my head, chai is what needs to be filtered. Coffee just dissolves in water. So, what is this coffee that needs to be filtered? And in that moment, I realized I was not holding some cheap, weird coffee in my hands. I was holding the real stuff for the first time in my life. And I had been drinking the cheap, weird version my entire life without even realizing it. And in that moment, I decided that I need to unlearn everything I knew about coffee. I need to forget all of it and start from a fresh page. My entire life, I believed coffee behaved a certain way. It dissolved in water, it disappeared on command, it tasted extremely bitter. But that's not how real coffee is. That's just how instant coffee is. So, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I need you to do one very important thing. I need you to stop thinking of this as coffee. This is instant coffee. And unless you believe the labels and the extensive marketing behind it, it didn't come to you straight from a farm. It came out of a factory, a place where coffee beans were brutally tortured, heavily processed, highly over roasted to make them as bitter as possible, and reduced into a powder that dissolves in water, but it isn't coffee. It's a sad result of capitalism, if you will. The journey of real coffee starts at a farm. And coffee grows in the form of a cherry. And coffee beans are the seeds of this cherry. When grown in a good location and picked at exactly the right moment in the year, the fruity flavors of this cherry seep deep inside the beans. These beans are then separated from the cherry, dried out in the sun, sometimes even fermented to make certain flavors stand out, and they turn into what we call green coffee beans. At this stage, coffee is full of potential, like students. It's not coffee yet. It doesn't smell like coffee, it doesn't taste like coffee, it's nothing like coffee. If you try to drink it, it will taste like grass. It only becomes coffee after a very special process. It's called roasting. When these beans are roasted, something magical happens. By magical, I mean about 1500 different chemical reactions. One of them is the Maillard reaction, which I'm sure the students must have heard of. This reaction causes the cherries to turn a deep brown, the color of coffee that we all know and love. And during the process of roasting, the beans become alive. Every hidden flavor deep inside their cells bursts out into aromas, filling up the entire space and begging you to taste them. And at this stage, the coffee is fresh. But just like an apple, it doesn't stay fresh for long. All of those aromatics, those flavor compounds, that sweet coffee smell, it's very volatile, extremely volatile. And within a matter of weeks, it's gone, turning the coffee stale and old. But if you buy it during this precise moment, during this precise period of freshness, and instead of mixing it in water like some medicine for headaches, you actually brew it using any of these beautiful brewing methods. The coffee doesn't taste dead and bitter. The coffee tastes like something alive. It tastes like something that tells you a story about the land it was grown in, about the farmer who processed it, the roaster who put life into it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what real coffee is. Here's the ironic part. For years, I believed coffee was not ours. Chai felt Indian, coffee felt foreign. But India grows some of the best coffees in the world. Coffee grown in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, even some of the northeastern states, by Indian farmers on Indian soil. And yet, most of us never tasted fresh. So I'm on a journey to make this available and accessible to every household in the country. The border wasn't cultural, it wasn't even geographical. The border is informational. And when we stop treating coffee like something bitter and something like we usually do, it stops being bitter and starts being beautiful. Thank you.